Hi everyone, I'm Yanshil and you're watching Offline TV, the community for Korean professionals to build an international career. Today, I'm going to introduce one of my favorite bloggers in the US who gives me a lot of inspiration. If you plan to get into new industry or a new position, you wouldn't want to miss this session today. Austin is currently working at Microsoft as a partner manager. On the side, he is helping people around the world land their dream jobs through his website, Cultivated Culture. He has published many articles about his own unique job search strategy, and some of them were featured on Forbes, Fast Company, and Business Insider. In his blog post, How to Get a Job Anywhere with No Connections, he shares his experience how he got offers from iconic tech companies such as Google, Twitter, and Uber, having no experience in tech companies. Welcome to Offline, Austin.
Thank you so much, Yancel. I appreciate it.
I'm pretty sure there's so many people like, oh, who's Austin, right? And then, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background for us?
Definitely. So to start with the present, I work full-time at Microsoft right now. I work in sales in their advertising division. But on the side, I have a site, which is how you and I got connected, called cultivatedculture.com. And the goal of that site is to teach people how to navigate the job market anywhere in the world, really, right. In the US, in Korea, in Europe, no matter where they are. Mm-hmm. And right now, the hiring process is fairly broken, in my opinion. So if anybody who's listening, has ever applied for jobs online or just applied for jobs in general and not heard back or got an automated rejection or felt unqualified when they read the job description, all of that is normal. And it's just, companies have made it so hard to get jobs today because of the way that they've structured the process and who they let through the door. And we can talk about that more in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But basically the goal of my site is to teach people to leverage some unconventional strategies so that they can land their dream job without any connections at the company, without traditional experience. So if you're trying to change industries or pivot in your career, mm-hmm. and finally without applying online, which I think is the most important part. So I started that about 2 years ago. I've been running it on the side of my full-time job, but we've had a little over 10,000 people come through the community total. And those people have gone on to get hired at places like Google and Apple and Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And not just in tech. That's just to name a few. But yeah, so that's basically who I am and what I do.
I've been following Austin for more than a year. And I know he discovered his own strategy and shared with tons of people. That's why I wanted to introduce Austin to you guys today. Many of my audience told me that getting into a new industry or position is extremely hard because a lot of companies wants to hire somebody who has proven track record. What's going to be better way for us to stand out in this situation?
Definitely. And I think that's a great question. So when it comes to changing industries, it's definitely difficult. Getting a new job in any industry is difficult, be it the industry you're already in or changing industries. But I think people make it more difficult on themselves because of the mindset that they have when they approach that scenario, or the stigmas that they kind of feel or have been told or society has kind of created around switching industries.
Right.
When it comes to switching industries, typically the objections you're going to run into from a company is that you don't have enough experience, right? Mm-hmm. But experience is subjective. Mm-hmm. Companies have a hard time looking outside of the lens that they've built for themselves. They typically have a lot of red tape. They're very rigid in how they do things, but that doesn't mean that they can't be swayed. So that's where, as the job seeker, it's kind of your job to craft a narrative and build some experience on your own and present yourself the right way. So to give a personal example, for me, when I went to college here, university in the US, I studied biology. That's what I got my degree in. And when I graduated from university, I took a job in the medical field. Right. But I ended up hating that job, right? My boss treated me terribly. I wasn't making very much. I racked up a ton of credit card debt. And I was just miserable. And I saw these companies like Google and Microsoft and Facebook out there doing amazing things, right? I was so sick of, and I don't know if anybody listening can relate, but I was so sick of being I work
everyone maybe.
just saying like, I work for this company, and then people are like, oh, what do they do? Like, I wanted to work for a company where I was like, I work for Google, and everybody knew what I was talking about. So that's what I wanted. But making that transition at first, like all the stigmas and the mindsets that hold people back, like I fell victim to that as well. So I thought that I could just apply online. And you can tell me if people feel differently in Korea, but in the US, I think a lot of students feel like they spend a ton of money. Either their parents pay for them or they take on a lot of debt to get this college degree. And then they expect to leverage that to get a job, right? Like otherwise, why would you pay? In the US, it's like anywhere from like $150,000 to $200,000. Why would you spend that money and spend 4 years of your life if like it didn't allow you access to a job? But the crazy part is that most of the times it doesn't, especially when you're trying to switch industries.
Right.
So I personally found that I applied to hundreds of jobs online. I decided that I hated my job and I needed to move on about a month or two in. So I started applying for jobs immediately. Over the next 3 months, I applied to several hundred, and I didn't hear back from a single one unless I got a rejection letter. So my fiance actually she has one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever heard, which is that you should only take advice from people who already have what you want. And so I realized that I was taking advice from people who we all normally take advice from, right? When we have problems, our parents, our friends. Exactly. And those people are great, and they definitely have something to add, but they haven't necessarily been through what you're trying to go through. Right. And I saw that firsthand. Like my parents were very successful in their careers. Like my friends had gone on to get jobs at banks and other great places and were being paid well, but none of them had been a biology major, right? Landed a degree in medicine and now wanted to transition into tech to work at a company like Google. And so I had to go find people who did that. So I went out and I used LinkedIn, which is like the number one tool that I can recommend for anything that we're talking about today. And I just looked up people who were already working for the companies I wanted to work for. And then I looked through their experience to see how many of them came from non-traditional background. And when I found people who did, I would make a list of them and I would send them an email and I would just ask them to speak. And I would ask them like, how did you make that transition? What courses would you recommend taking? What certifications would you recommend? What should I learn? How should I spend my time? And I learned a ton from that. And basically the number one thing that I learned to kind of wrap up a long story here is that you can build your own experience today. Like with the internet and the amount of technology and information that's available, you can learn most things for free online or for like a very, very small fee. What's really going to help you build the experience to make that pivot and make it easier is if you take that certification, you take that knowledge that you learned from the course and then go out and find a way to apply it in the real world. Right. So for me, I wanted to break into digital marketing at one of these tech companies. So I started like a little lead generation firm, like my own consulting firm to generate leads for real estate agents. So potential buyers. And I tried to bring them in at a lower cost per person, cost per lead than the competition in the US. And so I ended up getting a couple of clients and I got some results out of that. And so I was able to go to these companies, and when they told me like, hey, you don't have any experience in digital, I would say, that's not true. I don't have any traditional experience in digital. I haven't sat in a cubicle working for a company with a brand name that falls into the category of like technology. What I did do was invest my own time learning this, go out and pitch these deals from end to end, which required me to know like your product way better than anybody else because I had to outsell them. And then I had to perform the service. So I actually had to use the product, and then I had to get results, and here are the results that I got. And if you're able to do that, it's actually kind of interesting. Companies almost respect that more than the traditional.
You actually create something from nothing. And I think that this is amazing that, company can just like see, oh my God, this guy just like created something completely different from what other people has been building, right? So of course, like they will appreciate those kind of like ability starting over all by yourself.
Exactly.
So how did it go?
It went really, really well, actually. So doing that on the side, starting that little consulting thing landed me a job in New York. And then I was able to leverage that same experience to eventually interview and get offers from Twitter and Google and Microsoft. And I accepted the role at Microsoft. As I mentioned, I work there still. So if you want to switch industries, you have to find some way to build that experience. So like, if you want to be a web developer, software engineer, like learn the basics of coding, but then go out and build something, like build your own website, build your own platform, build an app. Like if you want to be in sales, learn how to sell, take some courses, figure out who the customers would be for the company that you want to work for, and then go out and pitch those people as an advocate for the company. Everybody else is relying on their resume and their cover letter and maybe a few answers to application questions or the referral. And that's the only thing the company has to judge them against, along with like the answers they give in an interview. But if you come to the table and you have all that same stuff, but then you have like a list of 10 leads or a website that you built or a tool or like a blog that shows off your marketing like prowess.
Exactly.
That's actually what they want from the person they're going to hire. And that's going to give you a huge advantage.
Pretty sure many people might feel like, oh, you're a local American, you don't have any language barrier, you don't have any cultural difference, and like you definitely don't know, like, you know, if this kind of approach would work for foreigners or not, right? So have you ever like talked to any foreigners who use the same strategy and then get a job in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. People who have come through the community have come from all over the world. So like the stuff on my site and like the strategies I've taught have helped people get jobs in the UK, in Italy, in the Netherlands, in China. I'm not sure if I have Korea yet, so maybe somebody listening will be the first one, but in Africa, in South America, in Canada, in the US, all over the world. And the reason for that is because basically when I created my site and when I thought about the strategies, I tried to break it down to like a very global level. So every company in the world hires for the same reason. They want to pay somebody money so that person will come in and deliver as much value for the money that they pay them as possible. And obviously, like if we're being truly transparent about who the best hire is in the eyes of the company, the best hire is going to be the person who can come in and bring the most dollars in for the salary that you're paying them, regardless of experience or diversity or whatever else. Like at the end of the day, that's what a company wants. Any cultural differences is just that company's way of trying to figure out who is that best person. So those sort of nuances exist around the world. But I think what we can all agree on is that if you show the company that you can deliver a tremendous amount of value for them, like you're going to put yourself at a big advantage in the hiring process. And then also if you can create an advocate for yourself in the company, somebody who will go vouch for you, that's also going to give you a big advantage. And I think those two things like transcend cultural and geographical boundaries. And I've seen it with a bunch of the students that have come through.
I love it. I think it's a basic psychology, right?
Exactly.
So like people wants to see the sample of what you can deliver, right? If you know already that this person can do, you know, A, B, C, D, why don't you give it a shot to this person rather than depending on the machine-picked resume, right?
Exactly.
So I completely agree with you. For those who want to check out Austin's blog, you have to read the How to Get a Job Without Any Connection. That blog post is awesome. Like you have to read that blog post. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Take care, Yeonso. I really appreciate it. Take care.
어플라이 TV의 각 에피소드는 저의 인사이트와 함께 어플라이 웹사이트의 무료 자료 섹션에서 찾아보실 수 있어요. 에피소드에 대한 질문이나 어플라이 멤버분들과 공유하고 싶은 것이 있다면 댓글을 통해 남겨주시기 바랄게요. 어플라이의 다양한 무료 자료와 멤버분들께만 공유하는 정보를 받아보시려면 뉴스레터 구독란을 통해 이메일 주소를 남겨주세요. 웹사이트와 유튜브에서는 공개하지 않을 해외 취업 전략 이메일 시리즈를 보내드리도록 하겠습니다.